While enormous franchises have dominated the sci-fi film genre for decades, many great standalone films have failed to spawn a sequel. Some were box office flops, but one even lost the interest of its original director. Here are 10 iconic sci-fi movies that never got a sequel. Denis Villeneuve's take on Dune was easily one of the most anticipated films of 2021. But it wasn't the first time a brilliant filmmaker adapted Frank Herbert's complex sci-fi novel for the screen. After cult director Alejandro Jodorowsky planned an ambitious version that fell apart, David Lynch experienced similar difficulties bringing Dune to life. Lynch was not given final cut, and the film failed to earn back its budget following harsh reviews. It seems that time has broadened the palate of moviegoers, and like much of Lynch's work, Dune has been the subject of critical reappreciation.
The sleeper has awakened!
Lynch's meticulous world-building and the movie's idiosyncratic characters were a novelty among the colorful, crowd-pleasing sci-fi epics of the early 80s. Dune was also the film debut of frequent Lynch collaborator Kyle MacLachlan. The rookie actor added naivete to the role of Paul Atreides, a duke's son thrust into violent political chaos following the expansion of the evil Spacing Guild. Lynch's plans to adapt Dune's sequel, Dune Messiah, were dropped after the movie's poor reception. Since Dune's flop, Lynch has yet to make another sci-fi blockbuster. Perhaps if he'd had the creative control he initially desired, the genre as a whole would be radically different. Tom Cruise has starred in many of the best-known science fiction films of the 21st century, including Minority Report, Edge of Tomorrow, and War of the Worlds. But 2013's post-apocalyptic mystery, Oblivion, is frequently forgotten. Directed by Tron legacy filmmaker Joseph Kosinski, Oblivion is an adaptation of the director's own graphic novel of the same name. It is a thoughtful, imaginative exploration of memory and loneliness that deserves more attention. Cruise stars as Jack Harper, a technician who operates a remote base on the ruins of Earth after an alien race ravaged the planet 6 decades prior. Harper's only companion is his communications officer, Vika Olsen, played by Andrea Riseborough. Harper becomes aware of the real reason why humanity retreated from the planet when he's captured by a criminal syndicate led by Malcolm Beach, a former soldier played by Morgan Freeman. Beach informs him that a secret society of scavengers remains on Earth. Kosinski is an underrated director who creates stunning visuals, and Oblivion has an intriguing story that's on par with its groundbreaking production design and visual effects. Cruise's performance is sensitive and restrained, and while the film's plot is wrapped up neatly, Oblivion contains an entire universe that could have easily been explored in future installments. Directed by Saw star Leigh Whannell, Upgrade was one of the most pleasant surprises in recent memory. It's a cyberpunk action thriller that manages to blend horror, suspense, dark comedy, philosophy, and a revenge fantasy into a unique and enjoyable experience. While its universe is not dissimilar to the ones in films like Blade Runner or RoboCop, Upgrade's original plot made it a breath of fresh air at a time when so many sci-fi films are based on existing material. In a future run by an over-reliance on technology, mechanic Gray Trace, played by Logan Marshall Green, prefers old-fashioned craftsmanship. However, when his wife Asha, played by Melanie Vallejo, is killed by a gang of ruthless criminals and he's beaten and left immobilized, Trace undergoes cybernetic surgery in order to stay alive. As a result, his actions are now guided by the AI program STEM, voiced by Simon Maiden. Trace learns that STEM can boost his physical abilities, turning the wounded man into a ruthless assassin. The two consciousnesses share the same body as they work together to track down the killers who murdered Asha.
Wait. Now, while you have the advantage.
Combining satire with pulpy action, Upgrade is a complete blast. Its ambiguous ending is brilliant, and while Whannell has stated that the film is meant to stand alone, producer Jason Blum has been developing a spin-off television series. Disney's first PG-rated movie is completely unlike the family-friendly adventure films the studio was known for making. The Black Hole is a meditative, experimental space epic, closer in style to 2001: A Space Odyssey than Freaky Friday, containing themes about mankind's search for a godlike figure. With innovative visual effects that still look good today, The Black Hole is a gorgeous slow burn that features a great score from composer John Barry. The Black Hole follows the crew of the interstellar spacecraft USS Palomino, led by Robert Forster's character, Captain Dan Holland. Holland and his crew of astronauts find a black hole that contains a gate to a vessel lost 20 years prior. It's a discovery with serious personal stakes, as the crew's science officer, Dr. Kate McRae, played by Yvette Mimieux, lost her father on the doomed craft. However, not everything is as it seems. As the Palomino crew investigates the old ship, the mysteries begin to pile up. The black hole may have received a mixed reception upon release, but over time, it's become appreciated as a fascinating philosophical odyssey disguised as a Disney family adventure. Its influence is still felt today. Christopher Nolan recalls the film as a childhood favorite. Unfortunately, a sequel never came to be, and plans to mount a remake were halted when once again the black hole proved to be too dark.
Our mission's finished, Alex.
Following the runaway success of Pirates of the Caribbean, which resurrected the pirate movie, Disney tried to revitalize other genres that had fallen by the wayside. Its attempts to create another action-adventure franchise included the video game adaptation Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, the techie sci-fi sequel Tron Legacy, and the revisionist western The Lone Ranger. However, their strongest effort was the pulpy sci-fi epic John Carter. Based on Edgar Rice Burroughs' classic Barsoom novels, John Carter follows a Civil War veteran played by Taylor Kitsch, who is whisked away to Mars and forced to compete in gladiatorial combat against representatives of competing alien nations. Directed by Andrew Stanton, the man behind Finding Nemo and Wall-E, it's an immersive visual action spectacle. John Carter was in development hell for decades, turning out to be one of the most expensive films ever made. Despite its budget, it was also one of the biggest box office bombs of all time. Stanton lamented that the poor showing at the box office nipped the would-be film series in the bud, as the underrated film left plenty of room to adapt other classic John Carter storylines. Chronicle is one of the best found-footage movies ever made, successfully reinventing the superhero origin story through creative filmmaking techniques. It's a surprisingly touching coming-of-age story about outsiders who discover their identities through superpowers, which evokes sympathy for both its heroes and villains. After discovering a strange object in a field, teenagers Andrew, Steve, and Matt develop enhanced psychic abilities and begin tracking their growth on camera. Steve, played by Michael B. Jordan, is class president and a popular member of their high school community. Matt, played by Alex Russell, is a philosophical outsider trying to reintegrate into mainstream life. Andrew, played by Dane DeHaan, is extremely reclusive and has a very troubled home life. At first, the teens use their new powers to pull pranks and become popular in school. But Andrew soon starts trending down a darker path. DeHaan's fantastic performance depicts complex mental health issues in intimate detail. It would be interesting to see more of this world, and although a sequel was announced, director Josh Trank is not interested in returning. Still, no matter who ends up leading the project, if it even happens, another superhero story in the Chronicle universe has a lot of potential. In 1997, writer-director Luc Besson made The Fifth Element, an idiosyncratic space opera that's developed a cult fan base. 20 years later, he did the exact same thing with Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Besson's hyperkinetic style and cartoonish visuals may not be for everyone, but for those who appreciate his unique voice, this adaptation of Pierre Christin's science fiction comics Valerian and Laureline is one of the most imaginative space epics in recent memory. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets establishes a future in which alien races from across the universe coexist peacefully, thanks to the establishment of Alpha, a traveling galactic metroplex that's home to a governing body of representatives from different planets. Alpha is also the home of a vast international marketplace, but the symbol of unity is threatened by sinister terrorists. Special operatives Valerian, played by Dane DeHaan, and Laureline, played by Cara Delevingne, are called in to investigate the threat.
Handsome, intelligent,
modest,
brave,
suicidal,
determined,
pig-headed,
faithful.
To yourself.
Yeah, and to you, you're my partner.
As per usual for Besson, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets drew a mixed critical reception. And the $180 million movie only drew in $220 million worldwide. Unfortunately, that likely doomed the possibility of a potential franchise. But Besson indicates that the avid fan reception could lead to his planned sequels. Galaxy Quest isn't just a treat for avid Star Trek fans. It contains one of the best depictions of fan culture in cinema. Often, films showing devotees of a geeky franchise resort to dismissive stereotypes. But Galaxy Quest treats fandom with sensitivity, delving deep into the nuanced relationship viewers have with the stars of their favorite series. In a time where fandom is often characterized as toxic, Galaxy Quest is refreshingly positive. Galaxy Quest follows a group of fictional TV stars portrayed by Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, Tony Shalhoub, and Daryl Mitchell. After their TV series is canceled, the quintet frequently appear together at fan conventions. However, these squabbling, temperamental actors are forced to show true heroism when they discover that many elements of their show have been brought to life by real aliens.
They designed those controls after watching you. Pick her out.
Right. Okay. Right.
The team must work together when the villainous warlord Saris, played by Robin Sachs, targets their ship. Given all the changes fandom, media, and Star Trek itself have seen since the release of Galaxy Quest, a sequel would have plenty of material to explore. Although Tim Allen suggests that a script was ready before Rickman's passing, and rumors about a television series continue to persist, nothing's come of it yet. This beloved sci-fi comedy classic deserves another installment. Serenity came as a welcome conclusion to the acclaimed sci-fi series Firefly, which was famously canceled by Fox in 2002. Creator Joss Whedon folded many of his concepts for later seasons into Serenity, a feature film that continued the story. Despite the deaths of some beloved characters, Serenity is the satisfying end to a series many thought they would never see. The film was intended to be the first of a trilogy that would continue the adventures of Captain Malcolm Reynolds, played by Nathan Fillion, but plans were scrapped after the film bombed financially. The audience has only grown as new fans have discovered the series over the years, and while spin-off novels, comics, and role-playing games have emerged, the space western universe has the potential to continue with more cinematic installments. Serenity leaves the door open for more storylines, as the totalitarian government body known as the Alliance continues to be a threat. Many of the key storylines addressed in the film, including psychic fugitives similar to the crew's River Tam, played by Summer Glau, could be incorporated. Showrunner Tim Minear has hinted that there is studio interest in a revival, and uniting the original cast could satisfy its ever-growing fanbase.